Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. You've not seen me the last couple of episodes, but I'm Harry. We're back, and you've got a full house today. We've got Ewan, Ryan, Liam, and Greg on the podcast. This is probably the most positive voice that you're going to hear for the rest of the evening because we've not got a particularly great game to talk about after quite a heartbreaking weekend. However, Ryan, first experience of joining us at the pub on a Hampden day. How did you find the day out before the game itself?
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was quite tough being the star of the show for a while, and then obviously we had the Rebel Hybe join us, who is a great guy, by the way. It was good to meet him, but that was great. It was great fun. It's always good to socialise and kind of have fun before the football ruins everything for you. So I thoroughly enjoyed the pub. I'd have been happy enough to stay there all day.
Aye. And I always try and ease us into it with the most positive people, but being honest, you and Liam and Greg were kind of batting for the angriest Hibs fan leaving the stadium. But you and I think you were probably
Me?
slightly
Nah,
less.
nah, nah.
Greg,
Liam,
Greg,
I think
Greg,
I
Liam
did
was
Greg was
Liam
fine.
dirty
miles.
there.
Greg was miles ahead. Liam and Ewan were frustrated as opposed to angry. Um,
I don't think Liam said anything actually. I'll be
I don't
honest
think
with
I
you.
was angry in the slightest, to be honest.
Me,
I
Like,
don't think
you
Liam
know,
knew where he was.
aye,
fair play,
aye,
fair play.
all
aye.
right, Liam, you've claimed it. How did you enjoy the day outside the Hibs?
Nah, the day was good. Like, it was good. I enjoyed it. I'm never drinking Venoms again, though. That's a young man's drink. I think two of them very, very early on into the stint in the pub, and my recollection of most things after that are very hazy. I do remember burning mine and Ryan's new best friend's lug for about 2 hours about all things football, politics, and everything in between. So apologies to him because his ear is probably in a sad, sad state this morning, having been burnt for that long.
Nah, he was a good egg. I'm sure he would have enjoyed himself. Ewan, you organised the bus. Thanks from us and everybody that was on the bus. Apart from the aux cord not quite connecting up straight away, was that a good experience as well?
Well, organising it, no, not in the slightest, mate. It's been the worst one yet, unfortunately. But no, it was a good, it was a really good day. It got off to a good start. I met Liam in that just early, and you could just tell that they three were in an excellent mood, even as we were just walking along to the bus and stuff. It was a really good day, and like when I first seen Greg, I was like, I'm not sure if I'm drinking or what, and then that very quickly changed as well. I think no, it was a really good day up until about what would it have been back at six? I don't know what time it would have been.
Aye, and Greg, I think the question that's on everybody's minds that was within maybe 2,000 seats of you at the stadium. Did you actually manage to get your hands on John Beaton? Because there was a few
Um,
promises made throughout the game that I'm not sure if you
nah,
lived
to
up.
be fair, I actually don't think I was that bad to John Beaton. I think I was just, I don't know, I'd had a feel like, but nah, just just pissed off really. I think John Beaton done his best to make it all about him. But yeah, nah, just really disappointed. But we'll come on to who I blame in particular, no doubt.
Aye, so just before we get on to that, just for everybody, thank you for joining us on YouTube and thanks for listening in. For the format of the episode, we're just gonna dive into thoughts that have been shared to us from fans on Twitter, as well as a few questions. We'll fire into the actual game itself first and talking points that people sent us immediately after. Sometimes they're a bit emotional because it is just after you've had quite a gut-wrenching result. But I think raw emotion is what makes football fans what they are. We'll start with the positive one. Danielle Scott said, "We played well, we were the better side, and typically we don't finish our chances and get caught out with their one chance of the game. We also had a goal questionably ruled out and a penalty not looked at. We need to calm down. Calls for Nick Montgomery to be sacked are outrageous." Ryan, coming to you first. On the whole, if you obviously the result difficult to take, but do you think performance-wise we were all right?
Yeah, I mean, we dominated the game. I think we had the most of the ball. We won on every metric apart from goals, which is disappointing because it's the one that really matters the most. They had two shots on target. They scored one of them. The offside is very, very close. It could have been given either way, which is unfortunate for Hibs. The penalty is probably more frustrating because you see a similar one given the next day, and that's where the consistency factor comes in. But if we're going to perform like that, we have to turn that into results. There has to be a point where it kind of goes over the edge of, well, it won't. It has to be convincing, and we need to turn these positive performances into results.
Don't disagree. And then you and your thoughts on that performance overall?
Yeah, no, from when you look back, I think, well, first of all, I think Liam highlighted how reactionary I am after the Ross County game, and I think that got emphasised on Saturday as well. I said a lot of things probably within the 20 minutes following the full-time whistle to get down towards the bus that were outrageous, really. Look, Hibs played well at the weekend. That's the end of the story, really, and didn't get over the line. Hibs maybe slightly different from the people around us. Like when Venti's chance didn't go in, I sort of at that point did sort of consign myself to this isn't our day, and then the red card does sort of make you go, okay, maybe not. Like we can go again here. But I did feel like Aberdeen had started to come into the game between the red card and that chance, without doing anything. But they were certainly starting to get a bit of foothold again. It's just so disappointing. I agree with Ryan entirely. Like anyone with a set of eyes can see we're playing better under Nick Montgomery than we were under Lee Johnson. Obviously, Lee Johnson did have some positive results this season as well, though. The in Europe, especially obviously prior to the Villa game. But it's just important that we start to get points, and really it has to be this week as well, because it's hard, and patience will wear thin regardless of how you're playing.
And kind of looking on it from the other side, outside of Hibs' performance, Aberdeen, a few comments we had. Noah Skinner said, the most hurt I've been after a match in years. Should never be losing in that fashion. Aberdeen were miles off today and yet still managed to sneak a goal and then see the game out. Alan Woodhouse said, to lose to such a terrible team is one of the worst ones I've ever had to take. To say I'm raging is an understatement. Adam J. Hibbs said, Aberdeen were incredibly shit. They did not deserve anything. Liam, is it fair to say that part of the hurt to losing that game is because Aberdeen were so bad? I remember during the game at one point we looked at each other and we were like, they are terrible. Like that was not a good side that beat us at Hampden. I think that's, for me anyway, that's part of the reason why I was so frustrated walking out the stadium.
I don't think they're a terrible team. I don't think they played particularly well on Saturday. I think their inconsistency of results and performance this season, I think a lot of that is based off the fact they've been competing on 2 or 3 fronts with a squad that's maybe not quite fully formed. You look at some of the results and their performances this season, I don't think they're terrible. Some of their performances in Europe in particular, which I suppose are very similar to how they set up against us on Saturday. It's tough to take. I mean, every Hampden defeat is tough to take. I personally, my way of dealing with it is I find it easier to take because actually the performance was there. The result wasn't. That sort of thing, generally I can accept. It's when we have occasions at Hampden, and there's plenty of them in recent memory, where we actually just don't turn up and the performance isn't there. Those are the ones I find really hard to take, that annoy me for days and days afterwards. But I've, to be honest, I quite quickly consigned Saturday night to, well. It's just one of those ones. Well, it could have been different, but it wasn't.
Can I see with what Liam's saying there? I think with games like Saturday, for me, the hurt is almost more emphasised in the short term. So like Saturday evening, I was absolutely scunnered because you know how well we played, and it's still no went your way. But then by the time today comes round, I'm sort of the same as Liam. It's like, right, well, we did play well, like we can get. You're no angry ultimately. When you don't show up and you're shit, you're angry probably about it for days, if that makes sense. But I think initially when you play that well, that's where the hurt's more for me, because I sort of agree with the first comment that came in there saying like that's for me is up there with probably the County League Cup final and the Falkirk semi when we're in the Championship, just for that initial wee bit after.
I think we were far more dominant in both of those games than we were in the game on Saturday, to be honest, as well. Particularly the Falkirk game.
All right, let's stop the Falkirk game because I still get shudders down the spine when I think about that one. But I'm gonna open the floor to you in a second, Greg. But just a few people that are wanting to chime some blame at people. As I always say on the podcast, we try our best not to just dig out individuals and batter them. I know we've been accused of doing that to certain players before, but just want to get opinions out there when they're there. So Luke Cunningham said Miller cost us massively in that game. If he doesn't chuck himself to the deck instead of running back with his man, they don't score. Paul 1875 said massive opportunity missed, mainly not taking chances. As for Miller, why throw yourself down? He was in control of the situation as well. Our game management right now is terrible. I mean, bringing on two 16-year-olds to try and get you a goal says exactly where we are right now. And then Neil Renton said, it's disappointing that the disappointment is to be expected. It says a lot about the culture that we have. So, Greg, just wanted to get those out of the way. I know you said earlier on that you had a few players that you wanted to get some things off your chest towards.
Yeah, I didn't say players to blame.
Okay.
But if we're going to talk about the goal, then you need Miller for one, Newell a second, stops and shouts at the ref. Levitt possibly, but coming back from injury, so probably more 50-50. Keeper, but there's four straight away. We'll beat them maybe as well, possibly, but we had more than enough in that game to win it. We were dominant in that game, and we've not taken our chances. And again, I think the subs were maybe a little bit strange. I mean, Dylan Vente is a goal scorer. You need a goal and you take him off. It just seems a bit strange to me. But to be honest, I thought over the course we absolutely deserved to win it. It's just we've come up short. But the shouts for Montgomery to go are incredible. He set the team up perfectly. He set the tactics up perfectly to go and win the game. We done everything in the game, but we couldn't win it. But that's not on the manager. That's on the players, and that's not the first time the players have let the manager down this season.
And just before anybody else chimes in, just for one that I think will probably get a smile off a couple of people, Cammy sent in, if Lennon was in charge, we win that 3 or 4-0. Just because the last time Neil Lennon managed Hibs against Aberdeen at Hampden, we lost 3-2. So I do enjoy the lack of logic there, and just throw two things together and hope they stick. No offense, Cammy, but I just think that's a bit rogue.
You know, it's a record at Hampden he's got.
But was it 0-2 for Hibs? Did he play another game at Hampden as well?
Got beat by Celtic in a League Cup semi.
Oh, that was a Ollie Shaw game, eh?
And if you want to factor it in as well, he's actually not got that good a record with Celtic at Hampden either in his tenure. He overseen Celtic get beat by Ross County in a Scottish Cup semi winning champion.
Don't you be using that sort of logic on this podcast?
Natural born winner, baby.
He flies an airplane, it's good enough for us. But one thing I want to touch on as well, Green River said, can someone explain the Josh Landers substitution to me? I think in terms of Montgomery, the thing that has got most people's backs up is the fact he took off the man we've spent $750,000 for a 16-year-old making his debut. I'll let you guys give your opinion in a sec, but one thing, we're going to come on to the comparisons to Lee Johnson, because for some reason people are making them with Montgomery, but he made that sub, and after the game he didn't go straight to the press and say, I've not got a good enough squad, look what I had to do to try and bring something out. He went there and said, we weren't good enough, we didn't take our chances, we had a good game, but we need to be clinical. He didn't make mention of the fact of the lack of options he had available, and for me that's leadership. It's something that I value highly, and when we brought him in, and I think we can all imagine what Lee Johnson would have said about the lack of options if he was in the dugout instead. So I think when you're talking about, it's ridiculous he brought him on, before the game we said, what options does he have to actually bring on and change the game? I'm not saying he made the right decision. I think all five of us were pretty shocked at the fact Venta went off. But the fact he went and didn't make a fuss over it as if, the recruitment's been terrible, it's excuses. He'd done what he felt was right with the cards that he was dealt. And for me, I respected him a bit for that. But Liam...
There's a bit of an elephant in the room with Dylan Venta, isn't there? Because he hasn't completed 90 minutes yet, has he? In any of his games for Hibs. So there's obviously some context that we as fans don't have. So I think to go 2-footed on that one, I'm maybe just a bit resistant, because I don't think Hibs fans. Ryan made a point last week about not knowing about the injury status. Players actually don't always think it's healthy that we communicate every single injury that every single player has, because I think that could open you up to potentially certain weaknesses for some players, and we know that there's clubs in this league who will go out of their way to target individuals for other reasons that aren't just about injuries. So I think you've got to be quite careful in what you communicate. And if Dylan Venta's carrying something, or has been carrying something since he signed, then that wouldn't surprise me.
I think that the sub is it's probably even more emphasised that if that Boyle has to go off at the same time, obviously, but they ended up being a double sub, and it's Landers and Campbell who come on. Like, for me at that point, Liam's probably right. He is right that he's not completed 90 minutes, so there obviously must be a reason for that. But for me, it felt like if you're taking Boyle off, can Venti at least just get through the 7 minutes that are let? What is, if there is this big effect, you're taking your two biggest threats off when you either goal. Like, even if Venti stays on the pitch, we might not score. But if we do, if he needs to come off, take him off for extra time. It just felt like a weird sort of. It was really. It stood out with it being at that time of the game, didn't it? And also had the comparisons to Johnson. How many Lions would need to chase Dylan Levitt to get back and block the shot?
I reckon you would have needed a couple of cheaters to get him going for that, to be honest. He's not one of our faster players. But yeah, Ryan on the sub, any thoughts yourself on it?
I think Liam makes a good point about Venti only completing 190 minutes. I think it was 190 minutes in the derby, and there's maybe an issue there. I think he came off for a reason. Like, I don't think he would take him off if there wasn't reasonable cause. But in terms of who came on, he's got to roll the dice. He's not got much to choose from. With the squad, all the players that would be featuring were loaned out before he got here. So he hasn't put the squad in this status by himself. Like, he's come in to this squad. This is what is available to him, and that is it. I do think there'll maybe be players that come back into it in January. Another interesting thing is that only one player that wasn't signed by Lee Johnson started on Saturday, and that was Joe Newell. So, in terms of giving them time, this is a squad that was built to play a Lee Johnson kind of style of football. All these targets were identified to fit in with the way he played football. So I do think we need to understand and realise that 6 weeks down the line, we're not going to see massive improvements. We're not going to be shooting the lights out. It's a long-term process. It might be one of those short-term pain for long-term gain kind of situations. I know that's a cliche and I'm full of them, but I can see past the immediate kind of disappointment.
And,
you can see a difference though, without any personnel being brought in by the new manager. You can absolutely see the difference. So I just think I'm not going to sit here. What's the 6th of November? I'm not going to sit here till the end of January and say the same stuff if we get beat, but it's not his team. So you need to allow him the time and the facilities to bring his players in. But I feel like it's very, very, very lazy to want the manager out already after what has been a difficult period, but you can see improvements in there.
I think as we record this, it's like day 50 of his tenure, and people are saying that they want him out because there's not been positive enough change. It's like, all right, come on then. Jesus.
But he's not got a wand to magic up totally new abilities with. Do you know what I mean? He's still working with the same players that ultimately let the previous manager down as well.
You go on.
I was just going to say, I think we'd all be having a slightly different conversation if the performances match the results we've been getting as well. Like, for me, there's been a real disconnect between performances and results. I can think of 3 games off the top of my head, which you could argue we should have closed out better, but we should have beaten Kilmarnock. We absolutely should have beaten Dundee. I believe if that game's played another 10 times, we win that 9. And let's be honest, we should have beaten Ross County as well. So there's probably 3 wins I can think of off the top of my head. And I'm not saying we were scintillating against Ross County, because actually I think that's probably our poorest performance out of those 3 games. But those are 3 games we should have won. We should have won the game on Saturday. So I'd feel more concerned if the performances match the results. I actually think the performances in pretty much every game, apart from Rangers, have been good.
Yeah. So also, although we've drawn a lot of games, it's not as if we've come back to scrape a draw. It's maybe just at a point of us closing the game out better. Game management, which has been awful at times, and a lot of that's on pitch, and it can be down to the players. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but there's certain things that can be done better. There's the game against Ross County. I think there was 3 or 4 players that were over the age of 30, and they should have the experience and know how to kind of see that game out better. One goalkeeping mistake kind of changes the game, and instantly folk are looking to blame the manager. There's absolutely no way he can legislate for something like that.
See, it's interesting, Ryan, talk about game management there. Is there anywhere, does any of that come down to the manager though as well? Because, you know, on a few occasions he's made sort of triple subs, he's making 2, 3, 4, 5 changes in a short period of time.
Yeah,
maybe
no, I understand that, but I mean, the biggest example you've got of game management is the goal that Aberdeen scored on Saturday. So about 5 minutes later, Hibs break and Graham Shinnie pulls them down and gets a booking.
Yeah.
That's game management, and that's down to the player and personal pride and desire. There was 2 or 3 opportunities to do that. Joe Newell actually turned his back on the ball to claim to the referee. You play to the whistle. That's game management.
Yeah.
It's just little things, you know, like it's so simple but makes a massive difference. Like Graham Shinnie was more than happy to take a booking, and rightly so.
Hey, he tried to get booked about 4 times in that one, like.
Well, because he was determined to make sure that Hibs didn't break, because they would have been outnumbered because he was on the wrong side of the ball. Game management is Miller not throwing himself at the ground when he's got that area of the pitch overloaded.
Well, guys, as you are used to listening to the podcast by this point, sorry, Greg, I've started. There is times where I like to start a segue or a segment, and then the boys already answer it. So, Greg, hold that thought. I'll come back to you in a second. We'll get some of the listener questions I was going to use to tee off on Montgomery. But Dan Taylor said, every Hibs fan in the ground could see what was coming after dominating the second half. The squad has a soft underbelly, and they'll let you down time and time again. Montgomery needs to realise he can't trust these players, or he'll succumb to the same fate as his predecessors. Not really sure that he's got any choice but to trust him at the moment, considering he's not got a transfer window. But David, we had a lot of David's message that didn't have any other parts of their name, so apologies if I say Dave/David about 7 times tonight with no context. But David said, squad not good enough, can't win enough games. Can Montgomery change that? Time will tell. Tam the Bam Kitman, who is you all know Tam the Kitman. He's finally got a parody account on Twitter. That is superb news, because everybody knows of Tam and everybody loves Tam. I hadn't seen it until this question got sent in, so whoever done that, good on you, my friend. But he said, if nobody can see that Monty has improved us, then go and take your face for a jobby. Free cleaning at Tam's. Nidri has kicked off due to these efforts in VAR. As for the toxic shite with Hibs fans, we're the absolute lovers with each other. Sort it out, or Tam has nae free vanish. Essentially, I think in short, he was saying Montgomery's definitely had a positive impact in comparison to what Lee Johnson served up. So yeah, and for further Montgomery comments, Greg, apologies for cutting you off there, but I wanted to get in the listener feedback before we jumped in.
That's all right. I was just going to mention game management when Martin Boyle was down. You can absolutely play on 10v10. You don't need to put the ball out. But other than that, Tam the Bam's spot on. There has been an improvement, and if you can't see that, then your eyes must be painted on.
We'll come on to a few comments I've seen on Twitter in a second. Well, not in a second, in the listener question segment, because there's a few comments around it from more Davids. But Keith Robertson said, this question, it was there for Hibs to win, Aberdeen offered nothing till they went down to 10. They played better with 10 because they were forced to change their plan. We just backed off and paid the price for it. VAR must have been tight there if there was no flag, plus beaten taken an eternity. We won't go too much into the VAR incident, but that was the moment personally that I felt we lost the game. It's one of those moments that you're just kind of gutted, so you probably reactionary think something. But as soon as that goal got chopped off, I looked at Craig and I was just like, I don't think Hibs win this match. I've got a feeling it's just one of those days that we experience too often. It ended up sadly being proven right, but I hate VAR, guys. I hate it. I think that if that decision goes the other way, I say it's harsh. It goes against Hibs. I feel gutted. It's not football. If it takes you 4 minutes to decide something, you've taken too long to decide, and you've had to take that long to look for it. I think it's ludicrous, and I think it is. That's when it got implemented in Scotland. That was the fear for me, that we would have a game of a massive magnitude. We would have a moment that was special to all of us, and we'd have it ripped away because fannies behind a screen were trying to find the exact freeze frame they think was correct. It's not a science. It never will be. And I think that it's just a bit of a sham, to be honest. Ryan, you feel...
Aye, can I just come in? I've seen a few folk, and the manager included, I disagree with a certain thing you've been saying, but it being clear and obvious. Offside is factual. It's onside or offside. There's no ambiguity. it's not down to clear and obvious. They're onside or they're offside. It's not down to interpretation. So when the manager came out and said that it wasn't clear and obvious, like I say, there is no ambiguity in that. They're onside or they're offside. It's completely factual.
I don't think that's correct, to be honest, mate. I think
that's the offside rule.
Ryan's right, Harry.
There's no clear and obvious.
The thing is, though, like, see,
I'm going by the rule, Harry.
If you watch it, but by the rule, there is people behind the screen picking the exact moment they think that it's determined. If they move that freeze frames backwards, which could have been the very second the ball left the foot, it looks offside. The problem. Like, for me, it can't be factual because there's human error involved. It's not like a computer is stopping it. It's a human that's stopping it. So I know. Definitely, it's not black and white as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with everything you're saying. It's just that is what they are working it towards. There being zero leeway. It's on or off. They're working towards something that's factual. The rules there to be factual. However, I do agree with you. It's ridiculous when it's all here. Like I agree with you.
So I think everyone knows that the VAR product that we have at least in the Scottish top flight, obviously isn't the sort of fully fledged that's available, obviously, to other leagues, because the majority of the stadiums, including Easter Road, I think, is even Celtic and Celtic Park and Ibrox they don't have the points for the cameras. However, I assume Hampden would be different, given that it had to have it for the Euros. I thought that would be
same.
No, it's the same TV crews. It's the same. No, there's no difference in Hampden. To be honest, I'm not really buying into the whole us having sort of watered down version of VR being the problem, because they still get the decisions wrong in England. But
of course.
There's a human involved. Human error is always a possibility, and I think that's that. Unfortunately, it's a tough pill to swallow. But where there is humans involved in any process, there will be mistakes, and I think, to be honest, then we just got to get on with it. I don't really want to talk about it anymore, because I don't feel it's a worthwhile talking point.
It doesn't stop us winning the game. It just doesn't. No, but it doesn't, because you can still go on and do more in the game and score. So
it doesn't stop. It definitely doesn't.
Blame who you want, but
Aberdeen fans celebrate like a goal.
It gives people a boost, of course it does. But
I know what you're saying. Absolutely, Greg. There's still
plenty of time left. 49
or something. There's still half the game
still
left.
Got a long time to go.
But I mean, I felt a little momentum shift at that point.
But then they also got a man sent off.
It's not good enough from Hibs. He's just going to win the game. It's as simple as that.
So
I'm not disagreeing with you.
In hindsight, boys, the worst part of the whole fact we got beat is we were denied the funniest red card ever. See, if we won that game, we could literally have laughed about that red card for the rest of the time, but now it's something that could be mocked against us. Like, fuck Hibs for taking that moment away from us more than anything else, because that was so funny. But anyway, we've got a couple last comments on the game. I'll just rattle through them. Home of Hibs said, I think it was a braver performance in the second half. Fenta done a lot of hard work dropping into midfield in phases of play. We are slow at moving the ball, but not got the players for it. Bench is limited. Montgomery needs back in January and try to survive the next month of games. David Bruce said there should have been a VAR check, at least on the possible penalty, plus 4 minutes to decide on offside. Thought it was only for clear and obvious decisions that are wrong, so why does it take 4 minutes? We just touched on them, but I didn't want people to send in their comments and not be listened to. And very quickly, before we go on to the listener questions, we've got some wonderful people who have joined us on YouTube, so I'm just going to rattle through some of the stuff they've said. Jack Skellington said, all right, lads, should have been a penalty and offside didn't seem right. John Cornwall said, game was over when Boyle scored. He was clearly level, terrible decision. Nico87 said, pleasure to say hello to Ewan and Liam outside their bus. Can confirm they were completely smashed. At what point does Montgomery have to introduce a plan B in terms of formation, as results don't lie? I'm glad you got to say hi to Ewan and Liam. However, before the podcast started, we all took an oath not to mention formations tonight, so it will not be discussed, unfortunately. I'm sure we can talk about it in weeks to come. Jack Skellington said, here's an interesting question I've seen floated around. Do you think Jego and Adam Lafondra would have made a difference? Liam or Ewan, I heard a tut there, I think, is if you're going to start. So Ewan, you can kick on with that one.
Jego, I don't think necessarily would have, because I think we moved the ball well in the middle of the park, but I also think he'd probably do a little bit better job of stopping Aberdeen's goal. So you could, but then if he's playing there instead of Levitt, you're not getting what Levitt offered you in the rest of the game, and that's probably a debate for sort of future teams ultimately and game to game. As for Lafondra, I mean, obviously, whether he started or not, of course he would. I think he probably would have started, and that allows Boyle to play wider, albeit Tavares, I thought, had another pretty good game. But to even have him coming off the bench absolutely would have made a difference. And that's the thing, like we talk about, the squad's not there, this, that, and the next thing, but you were missing one of our better players this season. That's why Landers is coming off the bench.
Yeah. Yep.
Unanimous decision.
I know.
Lafondra's impact's up, definitely.
You probably see Lafondra come on for Venti in about the 70th minute, because I was raging about the Venti sub at Hampden, but ultimately, I've seen a lot of people talking about Youan and Boyle, Harry, and I don't know if you're going to come on to it or not. A lot of folks saying whether they do or don't do enough, but Dylan Venti wasn't, he had a really good chance and didn't score. Out with that, in terms of looking like scoring a goal, he probably never looked that likely at the weekend. So I think he probably would have got hooked for Lafondra earlier than what ended up getting hooked for Landers.
Yep. And then, here's a sad message. Stephen21010 said, I felt absolutely gutted for my son, who honestly thought we would win. Keith Maddox, Kevin Maddox, always says, hi lads, Kev from Newcastle here. That is his first sentence on YouTube, regardless of circumstance. So hello, Kev, welcome back. What VAR and its effect in England, knew what was coming. Football as we know it and know and love it is dead. On-field linesman gets it right, VAR gets it wrong, scrap it now. Jason Ladd, Boyle was onside per the line, why were we cheated? Alan Anderson, he's not cutting any mustard, guys. He said, let's just be honest about it. We were not good enough. Very similar to Tynecastle last season. No backbone. And Jason Ladd said, need in the Uncle Bill cash, bench poor. We'll come on to a certain Uncle Bill in a few minutes, my friend. But just what was the next question I was going to go? Let's do a bit of a more light-hearted question, guys. Thomas sent in thoughts on Craig Levein getting the St Johnstone job. Greg, how does that make you feel?
It's a weird one.
No, really.
Yeah, I don't understand why they've appointed him, really. Like, I really don't. And I'm sure he said in his press conference that Andy Kirk will be doing most of the coaching. He'll just sort of be it's just really weird. I mean,
Greg, he said Kirk will be doing the coaching and Levein will be doing the more important stuff. What's more important than coaching?
Making cups of tea or something, I don't know. I mean, but you can bet your bottom dollar they will not win until they play us at McDermott Park.
No go on the way then.
So I believe Andy Kirk was manager of Brecon, wasn't he? So he's given up that. I know it's not elite level or whatever, and Levein was involved in the club somehow, so he's obviously brought him with him.
So I think Levein was director of football or something at Brecon, and Andy Kirk was the manager.
Do you know what it reeks of? It reeks of Mark McGee to Dundee. It stinks of that, eh? Just out of nowhere, like jobs for the boys. Does a couple of he does sports time, so he's probably been at McDermott Park a couple of times and said, he's a shout, boys.
I still can't believe that one time Craig Levein done a 2-month headhunt for the newest Hearts manager, interviewed literally dozens of candidates and said, I'm the best man for the job.
That's why he's hoping for it, St Johnstone. He's hoping he gets sacked as manager. He can just do it at Hearts and just move himself into the director of football role.
I think that's almost guaranteed, Liam. I think if they stay up this year, maybe
director of football.
And then Kirk takes over, because St Johnstone's track record's always appointing from within.
The only thing with that, though, is they've got somebody that's head of football operations, Gus McPherson, but I'm sure he'll wheedle his way in there somehow. Co-head of football operations or something.
Craig Levein's only points will come at Easter Road and Tynecastle, because I think Hearts fans pretty much have a general dislike for him now, as much as Hibs fans.
That's who they've got this weekend, eh?
Is that right? Is it? Wow.
Johnson Hearts.
It's just a very, very, very odd appointment of all the people they could get.
Mm-hmm. But that's an example of the merry-go-round. Why not go into the Championship and get somebody like Rhys McCabe and then just totally start afresh? And somebody that's doing well.
But
Anyway,
then you'd be at danger of a bit of football
I know.
breaking out in Perth.
I know, especially in Perth.
The
Ewan's favourite
locals
place.
wouldn't like that.
Oh
You're
dear.
right.
Just thankful that Halberg's messed on. Moved on. Sorry, imagine what Levein would do to your boy, Liam. Oh,
Probably no player.
But yeah, a couple of questions. I just want to get like a few word answers each from you, because this question's somehow creeping up already. And as we mentioned, he's not even been here for 55 days. David said, another of the Davids, with Montgomery not making much improvement in terms of wins, are we unable to accept that this team just isn't that good? Where do you think we are in terms of other teams? I think we're around the 9th best team, or alternatively the 4th worst. And then Billy chimed in with, are the Monty out chats justifiable? So an answer to that, if both of you could give me in comparison to the rest of the league, where would you say that we sit in terms of like quality of the squad overall? And also, are the Nick Montgomery chats Montgomery out chats justifiable? I would put us at the moment in terms of form. I would put us between 5th and 7th. That would be my ballpark. That's probably,
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I'd probably say
it's probably unanimous.
St Mirren Old Firm definitely above us, and then Hearts and us are probably a coin flip, just with not being able to actually turn draws into wins. Yeah, and then the Monty out just fucking grow up, essentially.
So, seeing Lee Johnson's first 55 days, did we not get knocked out the League Cup group stage? Yeah. Did we not have a couple of bad results? Yeah. Did we score two very, very late equalisers to get points at home against Hearts and Rangers? So let's just put a wee bit of context and perspective on what's going on here. There's a massive improvement in the way that we're playing, and we've just not managed to see games out. It's not totally on the manager, so can we all just calm the fuck down a wee bit?
I think, by the way, Harry, just to talk, the league table does not lie. I would suggest the top 3 are the 3 best teams in the country, and then from 4th to probably 11th, there's no much in it. Then St Johnstone's the worst. Like, I know this table doesn't lie, but it genuinely doesn't. Because I can't really sit here and say Hibs are 100% better than Kilmarnock. Kilmarnock are above us in the league and we drew with them. But I would have that fight and say that we are. But a Kelly fan can do the same. But like, it's so bunched together. But if we win the next 2 games, we'll be sitting talking about how good our forward line is and all of that. Like, it is still super early in the season, and Hibs have a decent to good squad. I would suggest is where we all land.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's got some flaws, but it's a decent squad.
You've got a couple of guys coming back for injury. Cadden probably would come in and start if he was fully fit. The next game, given that Miller obviously didn't play very well Saturday, and there's guys out on loan that would be on the bench. So squad-wise, if everybody's here, much better than 70% of the league, maybe 65%. Leaves us four-fish.
And then Hans said, why do certain Hibs fans still blame Lee Johnson when we lose, but praise Montgomery when we don't? Greg, come to you for Art Lagoon's got his hand up. That's polite. Well, the class is appeased by Ewan's hand up. On you go, Ewan.
You can go to Ewan.
It's simply what Ryan said. 10 of the 11 players were signed by him. The manager has only just come in the door. He's trying to introduce a new style of play, but ultimately Lee Johnson has made a lot of mistakes. Lee Johnson lost the first 3 games of the season. Lee Johnson still lost more league games this season than Nick Montgomery has. Nick Montgomery's taken charge of fucking 8. It is not rocket science. like until Nick Montgomery has, I wouldn't even say January, probably the summer as well, because what you got to do, turn over 10 players in January. Like, it's not Lee Johnson's fault that we lost on Saturday. But I've not actually seen him blame Lee Johnson either.
Lee Johnson had the benefit of a summer window last season, in which he was obviously allowed to recruit those players, and he was given the benefit of the doubt in January when we doubled down and backed him again in January. If you recall, we cleared out and brought in a whole load of new players in the January on his say-so. So Montgomery deserves at least the same amount of time. And to be honest, I mean, let's just take all kind of biases aside and just look at the kind of cold hard numbers. he's not doing any worse than his predecessor with the same group of players. So I think he absolutely deserves time. But I think January is a very difficult window. And just because we fixed some of our problems last January, I think it would be foolish to assume that we'll do it again this January, because what we had to do last January was use the loan market quite a smart way to bring in some steel into the team. It might not be as easy to do that this time round, but I think they'll be working on targets now, and I hope that we'll see some bodies coming in early January.
Really good comment I seen on Twitter. I can't remember who said it, but we didn't spend any money after Villa, and that would have been a massive cash injection for Hibs. So there should definitely be money lying there, I would think, that we can utilise to bring in at least a couple good loan signings, if not permanent ones. Ryan, it looked like
I just also want to say,
like this new format.
It's easier than butting in, and you're quite alert to it. So I think another easy way to gauge if a manager's improved what he's got is if individual players are playing better, if they look better. He's integrated Jair back into the squad. Listen, he might not be a superstar, but he was in the cold, and he's made him look like somebody that can do things for us now and again. Diego has been almost a different player. He's been really effective for us. One of our key players in his time here already. And who's the other one that's been better?
Miller and Obita. Miller both improved under him, I would say.
Absolutely. Well, Obita definitely, because I wasn't convinced in his first couple of games, but I think the way he's been used by Montgomery really benefits the way that he wants to play. Like Obita himself, he likes to get forward. So all those individual players have improved under him. So there is clear improvement both as a team collectively and as individuals.
To balance that, though, you would have to say some players' performances have maybe dropped a little bit.
Like Josh Campbell.
Like he's not playing, so
that's
hard to say Josh Campbell, but you'd have to say Joe Neal's performances have been great.
Martin Boyle. But did he play for Lee Johnson when
Paul Hanlon's not getting a game? Eli Yuan maybe over the last few games. I get just to provide balance to the discussion, because I think it's all very well. It's just saying these players have improved, but some players were getting less out of. Deutsch is obviously
that's fair.
Done okay at points under him, but was probably doing better under Johnson. If you take, it's a small sample size, but if you're being frank about it, you'd say Deutsch probably had a good start to the season and has tailed off a wee bit.
Absolutely fair, aye. So I shouldn't have put my hand up.
The Jair point's valid. Like the Jair point's valid, definitely.
The rest of them aren't.
And I think you've also got more out Rocky as well, who's coming on and seems to be improving. So there's always going to be dips, but I do think over the whole it has been very positive. Last January was a bit mental. Worked, but ultimately, start of the season, it wasn't good enough again. So I don't like the January window because it's just totally patchwork stuff. You build in the summer, and you continue building over the summer.
I think we are still talking about Nick Montgomery. I don't know if this was sent to the podcast page or if I just seen it on Twitter, but someone after the game on Saturday, it might even have been yesterday, screenshotted the league table and basically was having a rant at how Nick Montgomery wasn't doing well, and highlighted the fact that we're sitting in wherever we're in the league 8th, but all the teams around us have games in hand on us. But the image that he screenshot showed that only one team around us has a game in hand, and some of them have actually played more than us. Like,
if I'm not mistaken, Ewan, in your reactionary rant the other day, you were telling us we were going to be 11th in the league because teams below us had 2 games in hand on us. So that wasn't the best one for you to come from.
I love how I was made out to be the villain every week and I was the negative guy. But Ewan has absolutely taken that on and he is thriving in that position.
He wanted a character and he got it. Listen, I think
well done, Ewan.
Greg's been missing a bed sheet since Jack Ross got sacked and Ewan's got it hid somewhere in his house.
I have to say,
can I make a quick point? Or just really quickly on the January window, just because we were talking about this a wee minute ago. The good thing about the January window is we don't play a league game for 3.5 weeks. The winter break's back this year. So we play on 2nd January. We don't play again until the 27th of January in the league. It gives us an opportunity to actually take stock, look at what we've got and bring players in and get them training, get them working on the style of play that Nick Montgomery wants to play. I don't know if we're doing a warm weather camp this January or not, but I do think it's a really good opportunity for us to reset. There is something for me about there's a really tough run of games, obviously, through November and December, as there's every single fucking year in this country. But I do think it's a wee bit of an opportunity just to get through that period and hopefully reset and have a stronger second half of the season.
think there's some winnable games in that as well, though, Liam. Like, there's probably still there's a good chance to build up some momentum as well before the break if you can get over the line and just a couple. There will be some tight games if they can just fall our way. Like it is a grueling run of fixtures in terms of the fixture schedule, but we have just had a tough run. We now go into a more friendly. Would you say? I know St Mirren away is a tough game, but like St Mirren, Kilmarnock, Dundee, Aberdeen, you're avoiding the Old Firm. Like if you can start picking up points, you will start to get up to where you want to see Hibs in the league table.
You're playing teams around you as well. Gives you a good opportunity there.
Ryan's itching to say 6 pointer.
We are
no.
Where,
it was in my head.
I can't actually remember what the question is, so I'm going to move on so I can bring it back to something that I know what we're talking about. Dave, the final Dave of the day, I think this was Dave number 7, said the one thing worse than Hibs fans complaining on Twitter is Hibs fans that complain about other Hibs fans complaining on Twitter. Now I'm a Hibs fan complaining about other Hibs fans complaining about other Hibs fans complaining on Twitter. Jesus, we are fecked. So that was a nice. That was.
I seen it earlier.
I think I said that pretty well. To be fair, that was good. Good on you, Dave. Final Dave, the final boss. And then Bruce sent us, if you go on the listener questions, he sent us a good graph. It was like my experience of Hampden, and it was like hopes up, let down, start believing again, rinse and repeat. And that does kind of feel about the vibes for Hampden. Just to show love to the guys that are listening live on YouTube, please do come along and join us live. We do try to go at either 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock on Mondays.
Nah, it's always 7. It's always 7.
Always 7. Always 7. I always get confused. Anyway, since we last caught up, Jason Ladd said, no, he said that. David Young said Scottish football ranked rotten, pure and simple. Jason Ladd said they must have bumped Robbie Nielsen for the Fife Magician. I didn't know that Craig Levein was the Fife Magician. And then David Youngs also said Hearts away to Well this weekend. St Mirren are going on a European tour. I think at the moment it genuinely looks like Mark O'Hara is going to be leading St Mirren to a European tour, and fair play to them. They're playing some nice football. Dark Mecca said Harry McCurdy rebirth. I know what you're thinking. Oh, that's ridiculous. Look what he's done to Tavares. Come on, guys. Harry McCurdy's going to be running this league. We're going to get bow and arrows every other weekend. It's going to be absolutely class.
Can we
just be denying that.
Can we just let the boy recover phase? I'm guessing seriously threatening fucking health scare first, before.
Look at me! I'm you, and I'm a drama queen. I'm Harry. I've had a shit week. I'm going to get excited. All right, screw you.
With a shit week, it's Monday night, mate.
That's my host. That's my host.
Jason Ladd also said game management and subs versus County and Aberdeen not good, but there has been an improvement. N'Golo Grante, what a boy, by the way. N'Golo Grante joined us on the bus. He has some laugh. He saw a tweet saying Montgomery is killing Dylan Vente. Think folk forget what he managed to do with Jason Cummings. Things not falling for Vente at the moment, but will come soon. One thing I was discussing with Bex at one point. I think that Vente, I think his primary role should be a striker, but I think the way that he's having to play at the moment is he's having to drop a bit deeper than I would like him to. I think based off the highlights we've seen in the goals he's scored for Hibs, I would like to see him consistently more in areas where he can be effective. I think that against the likes of Celtic, where he was kind of shadowing McGregor and making his life difficult, I can accept that. But in a lot of games, I want to see Vente getting 3-4 shots off a game. Don't know if you guys agree, or if you seem to be struggling with the concept the most. I'd like to see Vente kind of consistently sticking around the 18-yard box.
You're right, because you want your strike. That's ultimately what you want your strikers to do. You want your strikers to score goals. But he was doing this. Isn't a Montgomery thing? He done the same under Lee Johnson. He was playing in the same. Maybe it's just the way Dylan Vente plays the game. He's a striker. Good enough on the ball. Maybe he likes to try and come in and link the play up and play deep. He done the exact same thing against Levein and still scored a goal. I don't think he's blessed with blistering pace, which I think that then maybe goes against him if he comes in deep and then and ultimately we are blessed with blistering pace on the wings. So if he comes in deep and spins it down the line, it doesn't maybe look great if Boyle or Yuan are trying to cut it back and your number 9's sort of floating about the edge of the box or whatever. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the way he plays. Like you say, Harry, look, he scored a lot of goals in the Netherlands, but for a team that I think were at the top end of the league, and ultimately it was a goals compilation, so you're not going to see if he was playing
Yeah.
yards out as well. You know what I mean? Like, I just think it's quite harsh. He's not scored for a handful of games, but ultimately, would we be having this conversation if his goalward shot never got blocked on the line?
I wasn't saying it was necessarily a bad thing. I just think that the way
Uh,
we play, I would like to see him, if possible, kind of consistently be, because I think the problem we've had for years, that goes back to Jack Ross, is getting good crosses into the box and not really having anybody there to get on the end of them.
I do remember about 4 or 5 weeks ago that there were some questions coming in, kind of complaining that Venti wasn't involved enough in the game. So seems to have kind of flipped on its head. It's maybe also due to personnel. If he's playing up front with Boyle's not going to be the one to drop deep. He's not got the attributes to be a hold-up player. If he's playing with Lafondra comes deep and does that work. So again, could be down to personnel. And naturally, strikers will go through these kind of barren spells. Equally, they'll go through a purple patch, which he's done already for us.
To come back to what Harry was saying about him getting 3 or 4 shots off a game, I think the player that enables him to do that with most frequency is Christian Doidge, because Christian Doidge will do all the dirty stuff. And Doidge got taken out of the team, or did he get injured? I can't remember after what happened at Tiny. I think a lot of people were calling for him to be dropped after his one poor performance this season, which was at Tynecastle. I've got a sense that Doidge will probably come back in at some point this week if he's fit and ready to go, and Dylan Venti will start scoring goals again. He's got 5 goals in 16 games in all competitions for Hibs. It's not bad for a striker who's just adjusting to a new league and a new country.
Just while we're talking about Dylan Venti, Harry, stop me that. But are we going to talk about Doyle and Yuan? Have we had anything in about that? Because I've seen a lot of narrative saying that, can we carry them? Our flair players didn't do enough. Are we talking about that at all? Because if not, can we have a quick chat about it now? Because
so what annoys me,
Yeah, go on.
see if you show a little bit of ability and maybe have an off game, you are all of a sudden a luxury player. That really pisses me off. But he shows ability. He can absolutely beat a man, but because it doesn't always come off, he plays for Hibernian Football Club, remember, and he is a luxury player and can't be trusted all the time.
So what I wanted to say on it was, I don't have the goals and assists numbers to hand. I don't know if anyone can maybe have a quick search for them while we're talking about it, but Elie Yuan scored a goal and an assist away to Luzerne in the biggest game of the season at that point. He scored 2 at Tynecastle. Martin Boyle scored a double to put us into that semi-final against St Mirren when the game was absolutely turning against us. They just equalised late on after we'd made some defensive substitutions, if you like, and that that's just off the top of my head to even suggest that I don't think Martin Boyle's been at his best, but to suggest that Elie Yuan and Martin Boyle aren't contributing enough to play for Hibs and to justify their place in the team now is an absolute nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Yes, maybe they're not both fully firing, but especially Yuan this season, he's done more than
good. Yeah, 7 goals, 5 assists in 19 games for Yuan this season.
Right. So
that's disgusting. I hate when my strikers are chucking him with that sort of number. That luxury, absolute luxury.
And
can't be the line.
Goals are a massive luxury, though, to be fair. Like I don't like goals, which is why I'm going to start supporting St Johnstone and go watch Craig Levein St Johnstone every week.
I just find it's been a wee it's been a few things that I've seen it, and they seem to be the target now if Hibs don't win a game, and there's 9 other players in the team. Like Dylan Venti as your centre forward. He should be culpable as much as the other ones are. Or Joe Newell has all his strengths in the world, but he should be scoring more goals. He should be creating more goals. His assist numbers get a boost from the fact he takes set pieces as well. Dylan Levitt hopefully will add a little bit of creative spark, but there is other players in the team other than these two, and it's too easy to just say, well, Yuan didn't score the day, so he offered nothing. But if you watch the highlights back, Yuan contributed massively on Saturday. He played a really nice ball in for Jair, for his chance. It's just too easy as far as I'm concerned to just pinpoint the two.
And in terms of those two, what I would say with Yuan is I think he's the selling point for me of why I would tell someone to come along to watch a Hibs game if they've never seen the team before. He's the player that you want to go along and watch. And he'll actually get you standing on your feet and excited to watch Hibs play. because even if he does try the same skill 10 times, it's going to come off 6 times and you're going to get excited every time. And as you say, against Hearts was probably his worst performance in a Hibs top, but he netted himself 2 goals because he's just the type of player that he doesn't need to be good for 90 minutes. Martin Boyle, I expect a lot from, because when he left us, he was by far and away our best player and he was absolutely unbelievable. And coming back, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's our most expensive signing ever with the way the transfer worked out. I know it was technically like a cancelled us paying a fee, but for me, Boyle, in terms of ability, I think supersedes anybody at the club by a distance at the moment, in terms of if everybody at the club was playing at their best. So I think Boyle should be. I think at the start of the season he was a lot better than he is now, and I think he has kind of not been on the beat and track for the last few weeks at least. Liam, I saw a head shake there.
And I just don't agree with the point on ability, but it's semantics, so I'll move on.
Fair. So that was my 2 cents on that one. Just a couple of points to finish up. That's us done on the semi-final, unless anybody thinks we've missed anything obvious. Speaking of Boyle, by the way, that was an absolutely fantastic goal as well. It's a shame it was chopped off because it was a brilliant. Was it Fish? I think put the ball over the top, and then that's the Boyle what I see every week. Like fantastic touch, fantastic finish. But unfortunately, obviously ruled offside. But yeah, I'm going to bow out because I don't really know anything about what's going on with it. But Bill Foley is supposedly interested in buying a 20% stake in Hibs, if I'm not mistaken. Anybody got anything to chime into that? Kev Wilson did say thoughts on the potential for Bill Foley investment and what it means for the club. I don't personally know, but if anybody does, please do chime in.
I don't know about the 20% number. All I know that's been reported is that's a minority stake in the club, certainly. So he would have obviously an interest, but it sounds like the Baidan Sports, which is the sort of holding company which is owned by the Gordons, would still maintain sort of sporting control of the football club overall. I think on the face of it, it certainly sounds like a positive thing. You've got a relatively successful American sports owner who happens to be a billionaire with a net worth of 1.6 billion looking to buy into your football club. I think on the whole, you'd have to say under normal circumstances, that'd be a really positive thing. I think where my concerns probably come from about it are just how we would fit in the sort of hierarchy of his empire in a sporting sense, if you like. Obviously, you've got Bournemouth, who'd be very much at the top of that tree, being an English Premier League club, and we know the money that can generate. They're not as big a club as Hibs in terms of their fan base, but obviously the riches and offer in the Premier League would make them sort of top of the hierarchy. You've got this French club, Lorient, who are very, very much a kind of middling French club who haven't really had any success to speak of recent, who'd probably be kind of second in hierarchy, and then us, and then potentially a new A-League club, which I believe will be based in Auckland. Yep. As the 2 other clubs. And I guess my concern would be, us being sent players to play on loan from clubs who are perhaps higher up the food chain, who maybe don't fit the bill. But also just I guess it's that whole thing around prioritisation, like us being kind of the small fry overall in terms of the sort of company. How much time is he going to be able to realistically devote to, and how much attention is he going to be able to pay to Hibernian Football Club when he's got those other interests? But having said that, the figures that have been banded around, that have been talked about, are correct or even close to correct. I think financially that will give us a real shove in the right direction and could be really, really helpful to us. So I guess it's one to just sort of keep an eye on and see what happens. It doesn't look like it's announcements imminent, but might be wrong.
I think the right way to approach most of these things is like cautious optimism, isn't it? I don't think you want to go in it totally thinking everything's, it's a horrible idea. And I think Liam's right with the where would Hibs sit in the hierarchy sort of thing, because you wouldn't want to get to a situation where that's our main purpose. Like that we're just there to feed Bournemouth. And I liked, he done an interview on a podcast and I heard what he said and it sounded good. I think it's called Men in Blazers, I think, was the episode. I'm sure you'll be able to find it online if you've not heard it. But then Patrick McPartland done a deeper dive in the Hibs Observer, I think, and there was a lot of talk where basically it was like the purpose is to ultimately feed Bournemouth with players that are ready, and they could get them for cheaper if they were buying them within the group and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting, but I think on the whole, the Gordon family have been very good owners for Hibs, so I don't expect that they would do anything that didn't have sort of the club's best interests there. And ultimately, they will still be the majority owners, so they wouldn't want to damage that either.
Yep. As I say, and then in terms of just on the Gordons there, I think same as a manager, when anybody comes into the club, I always just want them to leave the club in a better place than when they took them on. And I think that, especially on the commercial side of things, I think we're substantially further ahead than where we were before we had them. So, yeah, obviously they're not. I don't think they moving on is part of anything. But just wanted to give some positive reinforcement to the Gordons. What a family that is. But final talking point of the week, we do have a midweek game coming up against St Mirren, the team that we were kind of mentally saying their praises earlier on. We're not going to touch formations, but we'll quickly give you an overview of the team. However, we've got a caveat. Hibs programme said, sent in a question, said, what's the team for Wednesday if Boyle, Rocky, who supposedly appeared to be injured, who appeared to be limping off at the end? I didn't see that, but that was sent in by him. Adam Lafondra and Diego are all out. So Boyle, Rocky, Lafondra and Diego all out. He said potentially Doidge and Hanlon in. So in terms of don't mention formations, because if we do, I'm just going to lose my head. But if you gave me a starting 11 with the caveat of those 4 players not playing, who do we think gets to start? You start building and people can chime in as we go through.
Right, so he's saying that Rocky would be out, so Hanlon, Diego's still out, so that would still be Levitt. Boyle's out, Doidge. That would probably be it. Ultimately, at this, I would guess at this point, that's. I think he's nailed it there. You've seen the options on the bench were limited. Don't think Josh Campbell's flavour of the month for Nick Montgomery, so I would be surprised to see him come into a starting 11. Do you know something? I'll give you a wild card one. It wouldn't shock me if Rory Whittaker started at right back. There you go. There's my role. I don't want to see it. I do not want to see it, but that's.
He's not played right back yet.
They don't come on at right back. They don't take Miller off.
How long?
They would have shifted shape though. Because believe it or not, when you start a game with a formation, you are actually allowed to change it.
No, I'm just saying. Like,
I don't mean that towards you, by the way.
Just for a little bit of difference. That it's just something telling me we might see that. And
if at all he was going to play, he would play one ahead. Right midfield. If at all he was going to play, he would play further up the pitch, because Nick Montgomery touched on in interviews after the game, for that defensive security, he's played him further up the park. So your shout of him playing's not too wild, but I wouldn't see him at right back.
I think he maybe is a right back.
I think he's meant to be.
I don't think he will play there. He's not physical enough to play at right back anyway.
Harry, I know you're hosting, but I'll pose a question to the rest of them then. No, but something that's not been mentioned really. David Marshall probably didn't cover himself in glory for the goal, but Wallacott had a howler against Ross County. Who continued?
Max Boric.
Well, Jet, who would you, even not just for Wednesday, who would you want to see as
I thought I said this about a month ago that Wallacott should be playing. He was signed as a first choice goalie in the summer. We paid a fee for him. He should absolutely be. He should be playing by now. I'm not going to judge him just based on one appearance where he made an error. It was a bad mistake, but I think howlers maybe a bit strong. Keepers come for crosses all the time and miss it. It's only a howler because the player behind them doesn't react and it goes into the back of the net. So look, for me, Wallacott should be playing his first choice. David Marshall, I think we've all seen enough.
Yeah, I also think it is quite hard for a goalkeeper to come out the cold like that and play. They need to be playing regularly to get up to kind of match speed. I know they're not running about the park, but there's certain things, reflexes, reactions, depth perception, coming for crosses, the speed of the game. Whilst it's not a priority of mine, I did think when he played against Ross County, he was actually really good with the ball at his feet. As I say, it's not a priority of mine, but it fits the style of play and the way that we build out from the back. I thought he was good with the ball at his feet. He was kind of drilling the ball out to Miller at right wing back, and it was decent.
Well, Brody will be delighted with him. Just on Marshall, that was a joke from the bus. You need to get involved in the bus, guys, next time. It's a good laugh. But my thing with Marshall is the thing that separates a good keeper from a very good keeper is one that can make a save when they don't have a lot else to do. And I just think consistently Marshall's not shown he can do that for Hibs. Can't think of a game in which he's made a massive save. In which we've at a time that we've needed him to.
Celtic made a couple of big saves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're being honest, if we're being generous to him, but yeah, no, I agree with Liam at this point. I'd rather see Walcott get a string of games if he's not cut for it. After a couple, I don't see Boric as doing enough wrong to not justify getting a chance as well. But yeah, no, and then you and yourself, are you happy for the switch, or do you want to see Marshall?
Oh yeah, I probably would as well. And a factor in it for me is the amount of time David Marshall's actually had to come off in a game this season as well. I don't really want to be in a position where we might need to keep a sub for a goalkeeper. Like that. Like I think that is a factor as well. We've got limited choices as it is. I'd be comfortable with Walcott getting a run of games, I think.
Yeah, well, let's just start putting Walcott in midfield, man. We need extra options in there, so I know just start having a laugh with it.
If he turns out to not be good enough, then I'll be the first to hold my hands up and say I got that one wrong. But you need to try these things. You don't bring goalkeepers in for money and just leave them sitting on the bench.
He's going to attempt to save shots, and that's good enough for me because right now that's not what we're getting. That was really pathetic on Saturday. Really pathetic. He's literally knelt down. But that's not going to do it for me. Like, no chance.
Well, we'll file that one under less than ideal and move on before heads start to implode. Final question I definitely should have asked earlier, but I'll throw in here now. Hibs program's asked too. Apologies for missing this one out earlier. But he said, what players that are currently out on loan would be getting a game, or we'll say in and around the squad if they weren't currently out on loan? I personally think that Melkerson, just because he seems to have hit a bit of a scoring form and just seeing the changes in Tavares since I've been laughed at by Liam for that shout. And I also said a few weeks back, and I'm happy to stick with it, I think Henderson would do a good job under Montgomery. Liam is in hysterics at Harry giving suggestions and trying to be positive. Liam, what's going on? What have I done?
Oh, mate. Henderson, where's Henderson playing in a 4-4-2?
Mate, anywhere you want, eh?
Yeah, no formation chat, just vibes.
No formation chat. That's what I said this whole time.
Nah, good on you, mate. Good on you for picking those two because nobody else has got to pick them. Melkerson for me is, I know you've got to back him because you are a big fan of his. So he'd be like my Melker Hallberg fanboy status with Melkerson because you had made up a really good song for him. I think.
Coming into the season, would you have said that Melkerson or Tavares is a better player? Because you're lying to me if you would have said that you had more belief in Tavares making it than Melkerson.
No, I'd say Melkerson. I think you're right with that. But he's gone to Norwegian League and scored goals. We knew he could do that already. It's about coming here and translating that into the goals for Hibs. I know he's obviously playing up a tier, but to be honest, I don't see how Melkerson gets into this team, to be honest, or who he gets ahead of, because he's not playing ahead of Doidge, Lafondre, or Dylan Venti for me. Probably even question marks as to whether or not he'd be ahead of Harry McCurdy in the pecking order when he's available. So it's probably, I think probably the sun has set on his Hibs career, if I'm honest. Ewan Henderson, I don't really see where he gets into a 4-4-2. And I think if he did get into the team, I've just not seen enough from Ewan Henderson to suggest that he's got a long-term future at Hibs, to be honest.
Well, the streets won't forget the League Cup group stage last season in which we all thought he was going to be player of the year.
In which I predicted he'd be player of the year.
So yeah, I cut you off there.
Megwa would be on the bench. I would suggest ahead of the 16-year-old Roddy Whittaker, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he should be on our bench and not be playing week in, week out in the Championship. I think he's still going to benefit more from that loan spell than the odd minutes with us, I would suggest. That's probably the only one, Harry. I don't think anyone on loan's going to come in and really disrupt the starting 11 unless there's someone obvious that I'm forgetting.
Nah.
Maybe. By the way, where is Murray Johnson still at the club? Or did he go back out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
he's
still here.
still at the club.
I would expect him to go out more in January though. See on Megwa, he just
Yeah.
got Airdrie Player of the Month. I think that's maybe the second time he's got it. He's got a future.
Nah, it can't be. He's only been there a
Is
month.
it just the first one that? So
Yeah.
he said got rave reviews since he went there, and then he's got fans player of the month. But he's got a future at Hibs at the minute. The way that he's performing and developing, he's definitely got the physical attributes to contribute to this team in this league, and he's got the ability to play in two different positions, which is handy for any player.
Murray can also get rave reviews at Airdrie.
Yeah.
I think he got a bad injury at the weekend by the sounds of things.
Josh O'Connor's only had a sniff, to be honest.
Not as of yet. Nah.
Who's the boy we signed from Rafe a few years ago?
Dylan Tate.
Dylan Tate. Is he still at Hibs?
Hamilton.
Yeah, well,
Oh, is he? Oh,
That's two divisions down, eh? Like, he might be playing well, but level of football for a guy his age, I think there'll be a time where he finds his level and it's not Hibs.
and I don't think. I don't know how.
12 games, 1 goal, 1 assist. In League One.
Yeah, it's not
League
good.
One, Wes.
He started every game, but
I think Oscar
Sleep.
McIntyre got man of the match for Queen of the South. They drew with obviously runaway league leaders Falkirk at the weekend. So that's good to see. I think he's maybe been a wee bit in and out, and he played more often than he's not for Bartley at Queen of the South. But I think it would be good for us to get another option at left back, so that we don't have to go out and bring another left back in the summer. And potentially he can come back and compete with Obita in the summer. But I think, based on what we're kind of seeing, I think maybe his development would be better by staying at Queen of the South and playing as many minutes as possible, which I think is the case for a lot of these younger guys. I understand, Harry, to your point, why you picked Henderson and Melkerson, because I suppose they were kind of first team ready players in some respects. I think sometimes for the younger guys, it's best just for them to continue playing. Noah Ken is obviously playing serious minutes for Shrewsbury and doing quite well as well, so I think that's good to see. So, to be honest, I'm not really too interested in recalling any loan players, because I think the focus should be signing players to come in and play in the first team, rather than bringing players back who are maybe almost as good as or just as good as players that are already in the building. I think it's about signing players that are better.
Yeah.
we've also probably not got anyone on loan in a position that would say we absolutely need to strengthen there. I think we would probably centre back's probably one of the first positions we would agree that we would want to see strengthened in January, and then potentially another wide option. So like
Hibs recall Kyle McClelland.
Aye. A lot of folk forgot he even existed. He's at Queen of the South as well.
Like you're talking about if Megwa comes back competing with Miller and a soon to be fit again Chris Cadden. You know, like Melkerson, like Liam said, would be 4th or 5th choice striker. You know, even if Murray Aitken was fully fit, he'd be competing with Joe Newell, Dylan Levitt, Jago. You know, like I don't see anyone on loan, Harry, in a position of real need.
yeah.
Why did not
the question is, so I thought I would pose it to him.
Whitey isn't Dan Mackay. Like, I'm not, and I'm Dan Mackay. I wouldn't be calling based on how he's doing, but I do think we need players in the wide areas.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Absolutely.
in Dan Mackay's defence, he scores goals at Hampden, and apparently Hibs don't. So there is that. But guys, that is a horrible segue to end the podcast on. We've covered our heartbreak at Hampden. Forgot the biggest question, Paul. What's our prediction for the St Mirren game? Just because Liam loves predictions so much, I'm going to say we'll win 2-1 Hibs. 2-1 Hibs. Liam, come at you first because you love predictions so much.
3-0 Hibs.
Back with a bang. Ewan?
1-0 Hibs.
Greg?
No Hibs.
Did you just say nil Hibs?
1-0 Hibs.
I thought you just said nil Hibs. I was like, all right, just
it's like
say that.
that old comedy sketch where the boy genuinely thought that Partick Thistle's name is Partick Thistle Nil.
Oh God, right, Ryan, let's see if you can beat that.
No Hibs.
No Hibs.
1-0 Hibs. 1-0 Hibs.
No. All right, so we're all thinking
it's giving me Inverness away in the League Cup in the Scottish Cup vibes after the League Cup final. That's what I'm getting. Come back with a win, fight a hard fought win to get things back on track.
Nice. Well, the good thing is, after a heartbreaking loss, at least we're all still gunning for Hibs to be winning games as opposed to throwing the toys at the pram like we've definitely done on a few occasions before. So thank you everybody so much for joining us, and we will catch you next time.